Yes, hello, look. Today, in this video, we'll be discussing the top 10 best purple units in the meta of 2023. For this list, we'll be looking at units that serve both as potentially bench or are seen prominently in the top 1k/top 100 of today's meta. So without further ado, let's begin. And at number 10, we have Ex Vados. At first glance, since she's an EX, you don't really think much of her, and you would be right in regards to damage. Her damage output isn't exactly stellar, however, the fact that she's a defense type says everything else we really need to know. For you see, she is a unit that has a, I would say, pretty good Z ability, especially since as a defense unit, it stays in line with what she's supposed to be giving, which is strike and blast defense during battle. And obviously, as you increase her stars, this Z ability only gets better and better. Now, as for what she actually offers to her teams, is simply two things above all else. One, she can seal main abilities for 5 timer counts. And 2, she can seal the enemy Rising Rush as well for 5 timer counts. This is actually a great boon because if you are running a Universe Rep team, you have Goku Frieza, and you potentially have her on the team. Thus, in case that you don't have any more gauge with your Goku Frieza, all of a sudden Vados can still seal it off, allowing you to then sub in into Jiren, and potentially even destroy a Dragon Ball, thus not allowing your opponent to RR at all. So overall, this unit, despite not looking fantastic, actually plays incredibly well as long as you don't try to use her as a main source of damage output. But the downside to this unit, of course, is that because she's a defense type and because she is more like a support defense, you really are running 2 units and a half. And with that, she takes the number 10 spot on this list. And at number 9, we have Whis. Now, Whis is an interesting unit because this unit has aged quite a bit. However, for a unit that has aged, because, well, it's an old unit, it aged well. For you see, this unit has one claim to fame, but that one claim to fame is huge. He has the ability to have cover nullification, meaning the act to be uninterrupted for 60 timer counts at the start of the battle. This basically means that you can farm your Dragon Balls for your Rising Rush for as long as you need to. This is, of course, as long as you are able to take command of the combat loop instead of, taking hits, because unfortunately this character is only as good as you are at controlling said loop. However, in the situation that does occur, he has a main ability that allows him to heal himself and the team for 20%, and include a whole bunch of other niche effects, such as reducing substitution counts, nullifying attribute downgrades, reducing health restoration, so on and so forth. So as a result, this unit, despite being old, has just enough in his kit and has enough teams to actually warrant his use in today's meta, albeit very, very niche and not super common, but there, thus earning himself the 9th spot on this list. And at number 8, we have Ultra Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Now, this unit is, first off, an Ultra unit, and I'm sure if you are not super new, or even if you are new to this game, you will obviously know that Ultra units tend to be busted. However, the reason why this unit is so low on the list is because despite him being a melee type, he acts more like a defensive unit, and as a result, he just hasn't aged as well. Regardless, he does have some benefits if you choose to run him within your team composition, especially if you decide to run him in a movies team. First off, he's got a very, very stellar Z ability, which allows him to essentially give you a grand total of 5% to ultimate and awakened damage inflicted, and also 42%, assuming that this guy is at 14 stars. However, for the majority of players, you will have him most likely at 5 to 8 stars, in which case he will have only a 28% strike and blast defense, which isn't as good. The problem with this unit inherently is the fact that unless he's at 10 stars or higher, this unit doesn't exactly see, well, a lot of play. And rightfully so, there's just a whole bunch of better purple units in today's meta. However, with that being said, he does have some things that really allow him to be very effective. For one, he has the ability to nullify Immobilize, which is actually quite common in today's meta due to the revival of some LOE units that we will maybe talk about later down the line in this video. On top of that, he's got a unique gauge, which, when it activates, it reduces the enemy vanishing gauge to 0%, which is huge, although it only activates 4 times. He has the ability to reduce the opponent's ki, reduce their Dragon Balls by 1, destroy one enemy card, restore his own health by 15%, and also nullify enemy special actions when they change cover for 10 timer counts. On top of that, when he does a cover change himself, he is able to chain it with a blue or green card, and this is against most actions in the game. This includes blue cards and other opponents' green cards too, which has never really been before seen in any unit prior to this one. However, the problem with this unit, just inherently, is that despite having all of these things, because of the amount of units that have cover nullification, this unit can't really use all of his kit, thus only earning him the 8th spot on this list. And at number 7, we have Super Saiyan Trunks Adult. This unit is a underrated unit for a lot of reasons. For one, he came on a banner with only 2 new units, one of which was the semi-perfect cell transforming into perfect cell, which definitely overshadowed this unit's release. However, this unit actually still sees play in today's current meta, although only on some future comps and not all of them. However, for those players that choose to master this unit and use him well, they will find that he is actually quite a formidable unit and extremely valuable for his team. For you see, he's got 2 fantastic unique abilities, one of which allows him to have Cover Rescue, which is a skill that isn't seen too often in today's units. However, it's greatly appreciated. What Cover Rescue really does is, if the opponent uses any action, this includes a Rising Rush, you can dodge it completely. Now, this is, of course, assuming the opponent does not have cover nullification, which, although a lot of units do, generally speaking, when this unit does get to use his abilities, it's because the player is making appropriate choices, thus enabling it to always occur. And in the situation that you need always a second one, his main ability gives him the ability to have special cover change 1 more time, which is huge. Furthermore, one of the greatest things that is in his kit is his green card, which restores his vanish gauge, restores his ki, and also gives him special nullification for cover change. Furthermore, his blue card allows him to have blast armor, meaning he can go through opponents' blast cards and hit them. And he has the ability to nullify endurance, meaning any unit that would normally survive because of their endurance ability, well, does not. And that's, well, quite frankly, really good. Now, we won't really talk about his ultimate card because his ultimate card is not very good, despite it doing a lot of damage. Just the ability, not having endurance nullification really hurts his ability. The nice thing is, with this unit as well, is that if the opponent Rising Rushes, he reduces his substitution count by 10, and also restores his health by 25%. And in case that when he enters the battlefield, if one of his teammates is dead, he further increases his health by 20% and restores ki by 20. However, despite all of these great things, due to the fact that he is not the main purple for any of his teams, he cannot be justified or be placed any higher than the 7th spot on this list. And at number 6, we have Zenkai 7 Legends Limited Rose. Now, we won't talk too much about this unit because for those of you that know who I am and have heard me rave about this unit for quite a long time, even prior to his Zenkai, it's no surprise that he is so high on this list. Talk a little bit about history. This unit has excelled quite often in most metas he's been in. Got a revitalization with mono purple becoming a thing. Then had a lull because eventually he had to go away, but then came back with a vengeance once he got his Zenkai. However, the reason why he's this low on the list, even though 6th is not a bad placement for a purple unit, is because the current today's meta standard is, well, a lot higher than what he is at this point. This is not to say this unit isn't good, for you see, his green card allows him to chain into a blue card, which allows him to do neutral damage to the entire opposing team. And then his claim to fame, beyond everything else, is that any action he does that hits a unit down to 0 health, even if they have endurance, kills them. Which is, well, fantastic. Which means you can use a Rising Rush and kill a unit that has an endurance. And that's, well, like I said, fantastic. However, with the advent of new mechanics that have come into the game, his skill to essentially kill units has become a lot harder to perform and accomplish, and as a result, he definitely is used in a more niche, or I would say higher start team environment, especially on Future. And because of this fact, and because Future is starting to be on a decline, at least for now, he cannot be justified any further than the 6th spot on this list. And at number 5, we have Zenkai 7 Legends Limited Goku Ultra Instinct Sign. Now this unit is this high on the list because he has proven his worth. For you see, in the last meta, as in the last season of this meta, he managed to make it quite often in the top 100 of teams, as well as the top 1K. This is definitely due to another unit that we will talk about later down the line. However, this does not take away from this unit at all. For you see, he has a green card that was updated well enough that he's actually able to be more versatile than ever before. His green card being an AoE that pushes the opponent back, but can also be chained with any other cards. On top of that, for 5 timer counts, he is given cover nullification, meaning he can go uninterrupted, so long as you do not somehow cancel those buffs. Furthermore, he has a massively powerful main ability that draws him an ultimate and removes all of the opponent's buffs, thus allowing him to deal gargantuan damage in a way that not as many units without a Zenkai can do. This is not to say all, but this is to say that since his Zenkai, he has definitely been one of the more hard-hitting units in the game, especially with his ultimate. Furthermore, because he got a Zenkai, his stats have increased exponentially, allowing him to actually take hits, whereas before he was such a glass cannon that he was just not worth running in the first place. And because he is on arguably one of the top 3 teams in the game, it's no wonder he takes the number 5 spot on this list. And at number 4, we have Zenkai 7 Legends Limited First Form Frieza. Now, this unit is definitely a little bit of an interesting pick on my part because I am very sure that not everyone will agree with me with this pick specifically. However, I would like to make an amendment to this one. I would like to point out that this unit is being seen a lot on mono purple teams, especially on an LOE setup. And also because of one particular unit, not only is this unit been revived, but another revival unit has also been revived. And when one unit can do that, all of that, it usually indicates that them as an entire team comp just works extremely well, thus allowing them to be one of the top 5 teams in the game. And when a good amount of the meta is using said team, it usually indicates that this unit isn't actually as bad as you may think. Now, let's discuss this unit because definitely it is an older unit and probably one of the oldest units, if not the oldest unit on this list, who is this high up. What this unit really does for essentially his team is simply this. It allows him to tank the opponent. He has enough in his kit to not only gain cover nullification, but deal a certain, I would say, base damage that is more than respectable. He has the ability to Zenkai buff the arguably best unit in the game. He has the ability to buff up his team so long as they are Frieza Force or Lineage of Evil members. He has the ability to cover change and combo with a green card or blue card, allowing him for some tricky setups. He has the ability to immobilize the opponent, thus, in case that they wanted to switch to prevent an RR, they can't. He has a lot of things in his kit that generally allows him to become a monster of a unit. And best of all, he holds a blue card in his general arts cards held. This is insane because it allows him to essentially pop off as many blue cards as he needs to, thus baiting people into getting hit by an RR, and in a very unfortunate way. And because of all of this, this unit takes the number 4 spot on this list. And at number 3, we have Android 17 GT. Now this unit I wouldn't say is old, nor would I say new. He was in the last Legends Festival, and he's a fantastic unit. He is a great team player on both GT teams and Androids. However, Androids have been seeing a great boon, although GT teams aren't doing so bad themselves, despite what people may be saying or thinking. For you see, this unit himself is fantastic because he has great skills, one of which allows him to forever, for the entire game, shorten his substitution count by 2. He also has the ability to restore ally ki, increase damage, draw new cards, destroy enemy cards, inflict the ability to reduce the overall attack power of the opponent, and this is all just when he switches to standby. On top of that, he has the ability to increase damage that he has for every arts card used, as long as the enemy's health is 70% or less, as well as restore 30% of damage received after an attack of the enemy is over. And this is up to 30% of his health, which is quite actually a bit. On top of that, he has a main ability that allows him to restore his health and the entire team's health by 20%. Thus, overall, as the game progresses, especially when he takes a lot of damage, he's able to essentially heal up pretty much almost all, if not all, of the damage he has received. And this is not even counting his green card, which has a fantastic ability. It draws him a blast card, it restores his ki by 50, increases blast damage by 30%, it nullifies the enemy's health when it reaches 0, so it nullifies endurance effects. He also downgrades a health restoration by 30% as well. Overall, this unit is a monster of a unit. And in case that you are worried about your opponent's green or blue cards in their hand, if you land your blue card on your opponent, it destroys all their special move and special arts cards on hit. Overall, this unit is a fantastic support type, and because he's also a support type, it means he's doing his job extremely well, thus deserving of the number 3 spot on this list. And at number 2, we have the former king himself, Ultra Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta, or just formerly known as UGB. Now, this unit is at number 2 and not at number 1 because he has, I would say, finally been dethroned. It has been for a little while now, but since the making of this video, I can assuredly say he has been dethroned. Now, what does he do that makes him still this good? Well, first off, he has a fantastic unique gauge that allows him to basically counter every single beam-based card in the game. This includes blue cards that are blast-based, blast cards that are blast-based, and then green cards that are blast-based. On top of that, he has the ability to Rising Rush with added bonuses, one of which is he restores his Vanish gauge to 100%, meaning even if you miss, you have a chance to dodge and continue on with your combos. Furthermore, he has the ability to nullify Endurance, meaning if he Rising Rushes an Endurance unit, he kills them, so long as they don't have a way to counter his ability themselves. On top of that, he has another unique ability that allows him essentially to cover change against both Strike and Blast, and then follow it up with a blue card. Furthermore, if you trigger his unique gauge, the one that counters blasts of any sort, he draws a blue card and can combo it with his ultimate or blue card. Furthermore, his main ability draws him that ultimate, restores his health by 30% and ki by 40, Applies attribute upgrade minus 20% to enemies' sustained damage cut effects, meaning he does more damage. Cancels own attribute downgrades in abnormal conditions. Reduces enemy ki by 50. And finally, destroys all of your enemies' cards, meaning if they had set up a solid hand against you after using their main ability, you can just remove it all. Furthermore, his ultimate cancels enemies' attribute upgrades and buff effects, meaning any defenses they added are gone, and that just happens because why not? It also nullifies endurance. Finally, the one card that we haven't talked about is his green card. And the reason why I save this for last is because this is essentially what makes this a one-man unit, a one-man army that is really hard to beat. For you see, what this card does is it draws him a blue card twice, restores ki by 50, increases damage by 20%, and nullifies special actions that activate when changing cover, meaning he has cover nullification for 10 timer counts. However, things only get better from there. For you see, if 30 timer counts have elapsed, he nullifies unfavorable element factors, meaning he can deal neutral damage to yellow units, which are normally supposed to have an advantage over him. However, it gets even worse for the opponent. If 60 timer counts have elapsed, not only does he nullify unfavorable element factors, but he also restores his Vanish Gauge by 70%, meaning he can essentially play on his own for the remainder of the game, and potentially win you some 1 versus 3 situations. As a result, because of all this, he takes the number 2 spot on this list. However, I would like to say that what I'm about to say for the number 1 blows this guy completely away. Without further ado, let's go to it. And at number 1, we have Legends Limited, Goku and Final Form Frieza. And this is the first and the big anniversary headliner of the 5th anniversary. Now, this unit is an interesting one because when it first dropped, he was, I would say, maybe top 10, top 5. Solid unit, but nothing to write home about when you compare it to other units in the meta. However, the developers did the unthinkable and gave them a buff. And oh boy, was it a massive buff. For you see, they essentially rewrote the rules of this unit and gave them a lot more. Now, I won't go through it all. However, I will mention some of the biggest things that they did. One of that is the ability when Goku switches to Frieza, they basically almost fully restore their Vanish Gauge. I believe it was by 80% or 70%, which is, well, insane. It essentially means that even near the beginning of the match, they can essentially pull what UGB does near the middle to end of the match. On top of that, they have increased damage each time they use a strike or blast card. And this is not even on top of them when they switch or any of that sort of thing at all. Furthermore, when Goku switches to Frieza, they get the ability to nullify enemy special actions when they change cover, which cannot be canceled. Meaning you can go uninterrupted and even use the RR against an opposing Goku in Final Form Frieza and not be countered. Oh, and silly me, since we're on that topic, let's talk about what their unique gauge does, because their unique gauge is completely absurd. What this unique gauge does is, until it reduces itself down to 0 and at 1 timer count after 0, it's able to counter a Rising Rush. Now, normally countering a Rising Rush is already insane. However, it wouldn't be so insane if they couldn't chain it. However, with their blue card, which nullifies endurance, they can counter the RR and then throw a blue card and land it on one of your units, which, again, insane. However, the insanity doesn't stop there. For you see, each character, Goku and Frieza, have a different green card. Goku's green card draws him a 1 card, which activates twice, restores ki by 40, increases damage by 20%, cancels attribute downgrades in abnormal conditions, and on top of that, increases his card draw speed by 1 timer count, by 10 timer counts, my bad guys, and inflicts all enemies with 3 substitution counts. And he can chain it with anything that he wants. On the Frieza side, however, you get what we call a little bit even more crazy. He draws 3 cards at most when he has 3 or fewer cards, restores ki by 50, seals enemy strike arts for 4 timer counts, which can be game-winning, and restores own vanish gauge by 70% if there is a defeated battle member, which is, like I said, insane considering the fact that that means that in a mid-game situation, if you've lost a unit and you were Goku and you just vanished, then you went into Frieza, and then you had to vanish again and use a green card, you could technically vanish again and then continue your combos. That's absurd neutral control. Something that not even UGB can really do at that same level. And for that reason, and for the uni gauge, and for the absurd damage output they have done to this unit, and for the amount of extra skills that I haven't even begun to mention because it would honestly take too long if I were to mention all of this stuff, this unit takes the #1 spot on this list. So, do you agree with this list? If you do, or don't, comment down below. Just remember to be civil. Anyways, have yourselves a salty day, play with your nips, and I will see you in the next video.
Sir Pee Pee, Sir Pee Pee, Sir Pee Pee.